We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Envy is destructive. Don't be tempted by it. Live by your own rules. Religion is a universal compulsive neurosis. Recognizing a problem is half the success in solving it. How bold one gets when one is sure of being loved. The voice of the intellect is quiet, but it never tires of repeating, and listeners are found. Only the complete absence of sex can be considered the sexual deviation. Everything else is a matter of taste. We seek more to take suffering away from ourselves than to gain pleasure. Nothing costs so much in life as illness, and ignoring an illness. We are so made that we can only derive intense enjoyment from a contrast, and only very little from a state of things. People are more moral than they think, and far more immoral than they can imagine. We do not randomly choose each other. We meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. The secret of the human soul lies in the psychic dramas of childhood. Get to the bottom of these dramas, and healing will come. You do not stop looking for strength and confidence outside, but you should look inside yourself. They have always been there. The energetic and successful man is the one who succeeds in transforming the fantasies of desire into reality. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. When people marry, they no longer live for each other as they did before. They live with each other for someone third, and dangerous rivals soon appear for the husband, the household, and the nursery. We enter the world with loneliness, and lonely leave it. All adaptation is partial death, the disappearance of a particle of individuality. Time spent with cats is never wasted. Maturity is the ability to postpone gratification. We adults don't understand children because we don't understand our own childhood anymore. There is no need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. History is just new people making old mistakes. Who lacks sex speaks about sex. Hungry talks about food. A person who has no money about money. And our oligarchs and bankers talk about morality. Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. Avoid women who talk a lot about sex because often they have gotten a psychological breakdown from the lack of it. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. Where does a thought go when it's forgotten? Religious doctrines are all illusions. They do not admit of truth, and no one can be compelled to consider them as true or to believe in them. The more perfect a person appears on the outside, the more demons they may harbor on the inside. The only person with whom you have to compare ourselves is that you in the past, and the only person better you should be. This is who you are now. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Depression is a frozen fear. The first indication of stupidity is a complete lack of shame. In small matters, trust the mind. In large ones, trust the heart. A man is sometimes more generous when he has little money than when he has much, perhaps to keep from thinking he has none at all. The scope of one's personality is defined by the magnitude of that problem which is capable of driving a person out of his wits. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you are not, in fact, just surrounded by assholes. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. When one does not have what one wants, one must want what one has. If youth knew, if age could. Thought is action in rehearsal. Friendship is an art of keeping distance, while love is an art of intimacy. Masturbation is one of the primary abodes, the primary addiction. Subsequent addictions like alcohol, tobacco, and morphine are only its substitutes. The joke makes it possible to satisfy a lustful or hostile instinct, despite an obstacle in its path. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The best is always the enemy of the good. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. A husband is almost always only a substitute for the beloved man, and not this man himself. The limitation in the possibility of enjoyment raises the value of the enjoyment. No mortal is capable of keeping a secret. If his lips are silent, his fingertips speak. Betrayal oozes from him through every pore. Perfect, eternal, hate-purifying love exists only between the addict and the drug. Love and work, work and love, that's all there is. Without love, we fall. All people are born bisexual and later choose their sexual orientation, depending on their life's circumstances. Happiness is a child's dream fulfilled in maturity. Every normal person is really only partly normal. A woman should soften, but not weaken a man. All family life is organized around the most damaged person in it. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or the deepest despair. A father's death is the most important event, the more heartbreaking and poignant loss in a man's life. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. The only shame in masturbation is the shame of not doing it well. Everyone knows nature and death. A woman will never want sex with a man who doesn't get her hence. People in general are insincere in sexual matters. They do not openly display their sexuality, but rather hide it by putting on a tight coat sewn from a matter called lie, as if it were bad weather in the world of sexual relations. We are never so defenseless as when we love, and never so helplessly unhappy as when we lose the object of love or his love. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. At a woman's breast, love and hunger are crossed. A busy man is seldom visited by idle friends. No flies fly to a boiling pot. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. In the depths of my heart, I can't help being convinced that my dear fellow men, with a few exceptions, are worthless. Whoever loves becomes humble. Those who love have, so to speak, pawned a part of their narcissism. No, our science is no illusion. But an illusion it would be to suppose that what science cannot give us, we can get elsewhere. The virtuous man contents himself with dreaming that which the wicked man does in actual life. It is that we are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love, never so helplessly unhappy as when we have lost our loved object or its love. Religion is an illusion, and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. The behavior of a human being in sexual matters is often a prototype for the whole of his other modes of reaction in life. America is a mistake, a giant mistake. Beauty has no obvious use, nor is there any clear cultural necessity for it, yet civilization could not do without it. My love is something valuable to me which I ought not to throw away without reflection. The intention that man should be happy is not in the plan of creation. Men are more moral than they think, and far more immoral than they can imagine. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. The creative writer does the same as the child at play. He creates a world of fantasy which he takes very seriously. What progress we are making! In the Middle Ages they would have burned me. Now they are content with burning my books. The more the fruits of knowledge become accessible to men, the more widespread is the decline of religious belief. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. Loneliness and darkness have just robbed me of my valuables. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. When a love relationship is at its height, there is no room left for any interest in the environment. A pair of lovers are sufficient to themselves. Poets are masters of us ordinary men in knowledge of the mind, because they drink at streams which we have not yet made accessible to science. The ego is not master in its own house. Neurosis is the inability to tolerate ambiguity. Men are strong so long as they represent a strong idea. They become powerless when they oppose it. Discover the wisdom of Sigmund Freud, the pioneer of psychoanalysis. These carefully selected quotes reflect Freud's lifelong dedication to developmental and mental health research. Share your thoughts, subscribe, and enable notifications to catch our captivating future videos. Thank you for watching.